Welcome. My name is JP Vionsek,
And I'm Mickey Kilmartin.
and this is Midlife Muscle and Strength.
And today's episode is all about our coaching history.
Yep, we're going to talk about the past. What have we done in coaching?
Well, it's more like what haven't we done in coaching? Because my history is pretty minimal compared to yours, but we'll get to that when we get to that.
That's it.
So the goal of this episode, just to give everyone sort of like an overview, is we're just going to talk about what our experiences are as coaches are, how long we've been coaching, and just our background in coaching, to give you an idea kind of where we're coming from and why we're so into all of this stuff that we're into in terms of training, coaching, programming, etc. And hopefully it'll give you a little more insight into who we are as coaches and people. So I'm going to kick it off with the first topic question. I'll ask it to you. We're going to both talk about the questions, together, but I'm going to kick it to you first. And the first one is, how long have you been coaching?
I started coaching after college. So I did some coaching in college. I did like an extra semester with sports medicine and strength conditioning. So I started coaching a little bit of athletes there, and then that kind of sparked me to find a CrossFit gym to be competitive with. Started coaching CrossFit. As soon as I got out, I got my level 1 and just started coaching. I think I started coaching a couple classes first, or helping out in a couple classes, and then got my level 1, and then started coaching CrossFit. Did that for, it's been 14 years. Along the way, I did some lacrosse coaching as well. Specifically like face-off work was a position I played in college. And then, I like to coach anything, but it was mostly CrossFit and just, fitness. So along the years of coaching, it's, kind of changed, obviously, the strategy and who I have worked with. But I've just been coaching for a long time. And
So when I met you, you were still at Wicked? Was that when you were still at
Yep.
Wicked? Or is it,
Yep.
and you were coaching there at that time? This is
Yeah,
20.
started coaching there in 2011. They opened up.
Okay.
Before that, I was at North Shore CrossFit, which was probably one of the top. I think they were within the first 50 affiliates opened.
Oh, wow.
So they were there since like 2007, I believe.
So they're OG. That's
Yeah,
CrossFit OG.
yeah, OG. So started with them, and then jumped over to Wicked when they first opened as a head coach.
And then from there, it wasn't long after I met you, 2015, 2016, you opened your own facility in like 2017 or 18, was that?
Yep. Me and my wife, we opened, we rented space first for our business. We did personal training, and we still had some group aspect there as well. And then we eventually opened our own space and ran that for, probably overall, like probably maybe 6 years on our own. And then, kind of COVID hit, went online. And then, just been doing that ever since. So, training people in person and online, the whole, everything.
I liked that facility. That facility was pretty cool. The one over there that you and Krista had going with the basketball court in it. It was like hit a couple pull-ups, hit a jumper, go back,
Very diverse. So,
play some horse and some bench press.
Good warm up. Get the shoulders warmed up.
That was a cool little spot.
Yeah.
So, as I said before, my coaching history is not as extensive as yours. You got a lot of, your resume is pretty full. I started coaching just JV girls soccer right after college. I played soccer in college. I was a history major. Coaching wasn't really on the radar for me. Not even like, anything in terms of like physical education or exercise science. I was a history major and education major. So, the education thing kind of played a factor, though, because I was going to be a teacher. So kind of working with people and teaching sort of came naturally to me. That was something that I always was good at and wanted to do. So I started coaching girls soccer, JV, for about 3 or 4 years right after college, just to kind of scratch that itch because I missed the game and I wasn't playing it anymore. And that was fun, but it just became too much because I was just kind of going straight from school to coaching, and I didn't really have much of like my own life outside of that during the season, and it just wasn't it wasn't something that I was in love with. I liked it at the time, but it wasn't something I loved. Then I didn't really do much at all with coaching. I got into CrossFit right around that time and really into like lifting. Um, and then it wasn't until about 2018. So this is like I got out of college in 2008. It was like 10 years later or so. I started coaching just like an accessories class at the CrossFit gym I went to because it was something that people saw me doing a lot and people asked me about a lot. And it just sort of organically happened where I started to teach we called it bodybuilding, a bodybuilding class once a week. And then it became a couple times a week. And then from there, I started to get a few random individual clients who wanted some programming for themselves. And I did that for a few years. And then once COVID hit in about 2019, 2020, the gym shut down and just did everything remote and online. And that my class got shut down. And that sort of kind of put the coaching thing on the back burner. And we were just trying to figure out life during COVID. And then people started to contact me actually during that time in 2020, 2021, saying like, hey, I really liked your class. I know that you're not in the gym anymore, but is there any way you could like send me workouts to do? And it, it really wasn't in the plan. I just kind of just started doing it. And then by word of mouth, that sort of grew. And I think it was like 2021, I started the Dad Bod Chronicles, which is, was just an account where I was posting workouts. And then if people wanted to reach out to me for programming, I would do that sort of ad hoc at random. And I'd float between like 5 to 7 athletes at a time. And then just over the last 2 or 3 years, 3 or 4 years, it's sort of been like a slow drip and grown. So that's really my coaching career is like 3 years after college, and then like the last 5 years maybe. So, and it's kind of like it was kind of all over, that's spread out in the, two different eras, I guess you could call it. Um, but yeah, that's kind of my origin story as far as coaching goes and programming, like officially. But I was always in the gym, doing stuff, doing my own thing. I always programmed for myself, like after I finished my competitive CrossFit time, and people would ask me questions, and I always was willing to offer advice, or I might, I wasn't intrusive, but I might tell people like, hey, you might want to try this, or this is a good, exercise to improve this. I see that you're struggling with this. You might want to try this. Like I said, kind of teaching came naturally to me because that's what I do for my day job. Um, so that was sort of how that grew, and then it just kind of became its own animal over time. Not really planned, but that's just the way it went.
Yeah, I even remember training with you and asking you questions about training, like, "Hey, how do you improve your handstand push-ups?" Or, you know, just asking you questions, and you were like, had great answers, and definitely helped me in a lot of my movements that I struggled with when we trained together.
I remember asking you questions about squatting because you could squat a house, and you jokingly said one time you're like, I did 1,000 kettlebell swings a day for a week or something like that, and that's how I got so good at it. And I was like, this guy's nuts.
Yeah, don't do that.
No, but I do remember actually asking you about training stuff when we were over at in Salem together training at CrossFit Free, just bouncing ideas off of each other because I think
Yeah,
it was something that we both knew, we were passionate about, and it was just like picking somebody's brain. What little nuggets can you get from somebody who knows what they're doing in certain areas with certain things.
yeah. I feel like even though it's been a probably short amount of time for you, I feel like the way you attack your training personally is a great way to translate to other people as well. Because the programming, what you follow, and the way you build that up, I think it's you've been an athlete, but it's almost like you've been coaching yourself along the way. So I think that even though you kind of only give yourself credit for a small period of time of technically coaching, even though you didn't have people with you, it's almost like you were kind of working on, hey, how would I develop athletes, and kind of use yourself as that model first, which is I think is a great way to kind of learn what people can and can't do, or what they should and shouldn't do, which can be a whole other episode that we can talk
Oh
about.
yeah, oh
But
yeah, the do's
yeah,
and don'ts, the regrets, the
yeah,
do's and
yeah.
don'ts.
No, but I always thought you were very approachable and easy to talk to, and you always had great advice. Anytime we talked about how do we improve certain things, so you were always a coach, no matter when you started.
That's weird too. It's a personality thing because you similarly like you have a kind of laid back, easy way about you. But if someone asks you, and I've seen it happen, not me, like it happened with me too, but I've seen other people ask you, or you'll just kind of approach somebody and say like, have you ever tried this? Or, just kind of in a very low key, not a condescending way or aggressive, just kind of like, hey, have you tried pulling this way? Or have you tried this exercise, to fix this? And then someone would just be kind of like, oh, no, I never thought of that. It's like, yeah, it might really help you out. And then that sort of opens up the conversations, and then you can sort of walk them through, what you do or how you would do it. But that I think that's a certain personality trait that some people have, and some coaches have, and then other coaches might be a little more aggressive and abrasive, which is not really my style, but it works for some people. But we were always kind of similar in that way, I think,
Yeah.
especially on those like competitor Saturdays where it'd be like just a mayhem. People are doing 10 different things, and you're kind of the vibe is very different between all different people in that kind of environment and setting.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a tough. Well, I always did it just not even from like, hey, I want to be established as a coach. I just did it from a helpful standpoint. Like, hey, like I just want to, hey, you might need some help here, or focus on this is going to make you better. So I think that's a great like attribute to have as a coach. Just like I don't do it necessarily. If someone told me, the best feeling I can have as a coach is when someone's like, hey, I achieve this goal that I had. And it's like, I don't need to get, like, it's nice to get compensated for your knowledge, but like, that makes me so happy. I don't even need to get paid for, whatever they're doing. It's like, hey, you accomplished a goal or hit a target that you wanted. And I gave you some advice to get there. Like, makes me super happy that, you got there, It's not something you're trying to like monetize all the time.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that kind of is a good segue to a question is like why do you love to coach? Why do you like to coach? Why is it something that you pursue? Um, and obviously, there's a lot of different. You mentioned, financially, but also intrinsically. So, is it all of those things combined, or is there a certain specific, you know, thing that's driving you to want to be a coach? Um,
Yeah. Mine's all about, um, I didn't ever knew this, but it's all about service. Like I love helping people. Like so, if I can help someone, like that's what makes me happy at the end of the day. Like I don't need much in life if I can help someone reach their goal or help someone feel better. That's what I want to do. So it's more about just want to serve people and make them feel better and move better and add quality to their lives. So I think I've developed that over a period of time. I always didn't think that was the case, but if I can always reach out and assist someone in a certain movement, that's what I want to do to make them better. So yeah.
I think that's a good way to. So, have you ever? There's a book, and I'm gonna be, I'm not gonna be able to name it, but there's something about like love language. I feel like is that like your love language is service? Like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I would rather have you succeed, and that's why I always like the team competitions because I'd rather have my teammates succeed and overshadowed what I do than to individually be on top.
mm,
I'm not like you know the most outspoken coach on social media or try to highlight everything I'm doing. Um, I'd rather just kind of highlight the people that I'm working with. So yeah, definitely. I'm always in it for other people, and then their success is what drives me to show up the next day.
yeah, yeah. I think the good coaches. So similar to you, I mean, I have like this isn't my main career, right? I love it. It's a passion that I have, but it's like it's not. If I was doing it for financial reasons, like I wouldn't. It's not. It's not going to pay my bills. I'd have to do a lot more with it, and that's not to put it down or say that it's not good enough for me or anything like that. But you know, I do it more so because you get the text messages like, "Hey, I just PR'd this," or "Hey, I just did this for the first time," or "Oh, my blood pressure just came back from the doctor and they said it's back to normal levels." Those kinds of things. That and not every day is going to be like that, where you're going to get a million texts like that. But that feeling is almost like it drives you to get that feeling again. It's almost like a drug. It's like, ooh, like you get that dopamine hit, like, it felt so good to help that person, and then you want it again. So you just kind of keep going. So that I think I agree that the service to others and making people's lives better, like I always say, like health is wealth. Um, I try to emphasize that message to people so much. Just by doing this, you're going to make your life that much better, and hopefully down the road it carries forward for you and for your family and all the all the other aspects of your life. So the financial compensation for knowledge and the work you put in is obviously good, but seeing people become healthier, feel better about themselves, and then how that affects the other aspects of their life too. That's like really the best reason why that I do it. Because when I first started out, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, for a lot of people, I was doing it for free for a while and just, or charging very little because it was my friends and I just wanted to see them be healthy and fitter. And then as it grew, obviously that's changed, but you know, I'll still write workouts for family members that I have and just because I want them to get in the gym and go work out, just to encourage them to kind of kick them in the butt a little bit. And it's not for me, it's for them. It's I don't want to feel good about myself. I want them to feel good.
Yeah, definitely wouldn't suggest anyone to jump into training for financial gains. I think you can do it, but it's definitely more of a passion, and it's just something I'm very good at. So I'd rather focus on what you're the best at, and find a lifestyle that you can find a balance with it.
I think that's great to mention too, is like the having a passion for it's really important because if you don't, your energy for it will dry up really really fast because
Yeah.
it can be difficult and it's not easy to juggle all those things and talk to people, and because a lot of people for their fitness journeys it's not easy, and you're doing a lot of things as a coach just to help them manage emotions, manage time, and pull them out of the gutter when they're feeling down about themselves and all that stuff. So yeah, you're not in it to get wealthy because that's a rare occurrence for most coaches, but um, I think that's well said by you for sure. So my next question, I'm going to throw into the gauntlet here.
Let's do it.
This one is a tricky one because we're both kind of old, but you probably have some memories of this. Do you have any great coaches that influenced you to want to become a coach, or made you think like, hey, this is something that I think I really want to do when I get older and grow up, etc.
I definitely had great coaches. I think I've learned more from bad coaches, like just what not to
Ooh,
do.
great point.
Yeah, so like, you know, yelling, screaming, it was more like sports related coaches. But I think I never thought I would be a coach like my whole life, or even now. I thought it'd be a phase, and I never knew that I could continue to do it, which I'm happy that I'm able to. But yeah, I had great people who were motivating and helpful, and but yeah, I don't know if that got me into coaching. I think I just like respected them as coaches. But you definitely learn. Like I always learn from probably the bad coaches the most of what not to do, and then it also highlights the good coaches. But yeah, I've had great mentors, coaching mentors, helping me, throughout my time, and then I always continue to look out for mentors to help me even now to be motivated and hone my skills and get better at what I do. Um, but yeah, what were some people who helped you mentor?
Uh, I just like you. I've had playing sports growing up. I had some really great coaches, and then I had some bad ones as well. And the great ones, mostly the things you remember about them is that they just made you feel you felt good playing for them. You wanted to play for them. And the bad ones you just remember, as you said, like these are the things I'd never do if I was a coach. So you do get a lot. You learn actually from them as well. So you kind of have to thank them too. Um, but one coach specifically in college, I never like lifting growing up and working out. I just was working out. Like I had a Nautilus like cable set up at my house as a kid growing up, and I was just ripping at that thing. Had no idea what I was doing. I never had a lifting, strength and conditioning coach until college. And once I got to college, we had a coach, and she was. I'm friends with her on social media. I follow her, and she's actually going around the country doing great things with her own, written a book and all kinds of stuff. But she kind of convinced me and showed me and a few of the other guys, because I'm still in contact with them on the soccer team, how you can take, your fitness, strength and conditioning and apply that and make you better on the field. And that to me was like this magical thing of, you have certain God-given, if you're not religious, just you're genetically, you're born with certain things. But if you go and work hard enough in the weight room, you can, make yourself better in ways that you can't just be born with, right? And that sort of to me was like, oh, this is like a secret that a lot of people aren't tapping into. If you work hard in the gym, especially soccer players in the early 2000s, like very few of them in college, especially, were really cared about working out that much and lifting. And that really opened my eyes about strength and conditioning and made me kind of fall in love with it. And I took that after I finished soccer. A lot of the stuff she gave me, I kept all of our workouts and I redid them for years after, and I would adjust them and change them and stuff. So that really had a big influence on me in the way that I looked at strength and conditioning and how important it was, and kind of turned me into a gym rat. Even though I already was one, it just gave me more direction and vision on the way a training program should look. And I still use a lot of her, ideas and things. Like I remember doing Bulgarian split squats with her in 2005 and being like, "Oh my God, these things are amazing! I've never heard of this before." And that, and it's one of those things that just kind of, I'll never forget that, as far as how it's influenced me. And I've talked to her since, and we've talked about that, which is pretty cool to still be in contact with her. But big props to her, because she really did change the way I looked at strength and conditioning and how it was programmed and how important it was. And that that
That's
has,
great.
since influenced me.
What's her name?
Her name's MK. And I don't want to say her last name wrong. If and when we post this, I'll put it in the comments. I'll tag her, because I'm friends with her on social media, so she has her own coaching stuff and everything. So I'll give her a shout out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it was always, in the weight room, it was always the best people in the weight room were always the worst in the field. Like, there's people who spend the most time, like, kind of just, I think you spend the most wrong. Like, if you don't have the good guidance like you had, like, I feel like I got worse on the field because I spent so much time in the gym.
Yeah.
Uh, I didn't have that, like, kind of, we had great strength and conditioning, but I think I just took it to such a overdone level. Like, I do everything. I just, like, overdo it that, like, hey, if squatting's good, why not, squat 500, like,
And make myself incredibly slow.
and then you can't move, and then you're overweight by 30 pounds, and
And
uh,
blow your groin out.
yeah. So I didn't quite have that, but yeah, I think that's a great point of someone who can kind of like inspire and motivate, and I think I've done that for kids. It's funny, like now being older and having kids who are at college and now have their own careers, they come back like, oh yeah, I still do I try to do the JP type workouts that you've given me, and
That's cool.
yeah, it's cool to see them go from high school to college to outside of college. So um,
It makes you have those, like, man, if I only knew what I know now.
yeah,
You're like, can I get in a time machine and go back?
definitely, yeah,
So I think this is a good segue to another question that we were talking about, discussing, is experience as an athlete. I know we talked a little bit, like, as an athlete, coaches, who influence us, but how about just as an athlete? How do you think that being an athlete has made you a better coach, and your experience as an athlete has made you able to coach and program better, for people?
yeah. I think it's definitely like an athlete mentality, the mindset of being an athlete, and kind of working through whether that's a tweak or an injury, and kind of being able to work around that, or just kind of like that, finding that competitive edge, kind of like you were talking about in soccer. Um, but yeah, I think similar to like a lot of my things I learned were from what I did as an athlete, and kind of training, uh, you know, schedule or routine I did, and then translating that. Okay, would I apply this? Who could I apply this to, and who would benefit from this? But I always tried it. I would never give anyone something I haven't done before. So if I told someone to do, 1,000 kettlebell swings a day, I, I would never tell someone to do that if I haven't done it myself. And even then, you shouldn't do that. So
That's from your experience. You learned that.
that's right. Don't do that. Yeah, so I think it's very much. I like to experiment on myself. I kind of looked at myself as like, you know, hey, what could I do? How can I change this? And then if I can do it, what changes I saw, and then help apply that to other people. And I think I've learned over the years that you can't cookie cutter people. Like everyone's a little bit different. Everyone gets a different stimulus. Everyone's very unique in what they need, but you kind of just find the staples that you need as an athlete, and then you just apply that to the general population.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think the athlete mentality, like the what's up here. I'm not saying everyone needs to try to be some sort of competitive athlete in every aspect of life, but I think the idea of making yourself better and the competition is really just against you. That I think helps in the gym, pushing through plateaus and getting over difficult sessions, because it's not always going to be easy when you're working out. Sometimes there's hard days and there's difficult things you're going to do, but having that athlete mentality is helpful. And I also think experience as an athlete, like you said, I've done things that have worked great, and I've done things that didn't work great, and being able to have that experience, and then pass that on to someone else so that they don't have to go through the same mistakes that I did trying to get better, is really really helpful. And I also think as an athlete, a lot of people um, tend to think that athletes are super gung ho and maybe don't put thought into a lot of the things that they do. It's just like this, muscle head, meathead mentality if you were an athlete. But a lot of the things that you and I program and coach is very thought out and been tested numerous times by us and athletes that we work with. So the mental, side of it is also really important. Being able to understand, why something's programmed, when it's programmed, and how it's going to help you, and why other things aren't programmed, and why you shouldn't do certain things, as well. Because there's a lot of conversations I've had with people saying like, "Well, why don't I do this?" It's like, well, lucky for you, I did that, and it didn't work very well, and actually set me back. So we're not going to do that. We're going to do something different, so that you can avoid that mistake that I made.
Definitely, I think the athlete um, mentality too is also just what keeps you going. I call every one of my clients an athlete. I'm like, oh, you're an athlete. Like this is how athletes train and how they should fuel their body. Kind of like transcends just the time in the gym. So I think like all those outside factors you bring in as well. So yeah, I think everyone is an athlete in their own capacity, um, and that kind of keeps them driving and hopefully keeps them striving for more. It's more that mentality
Yeah.
of like always improving, always trying to get better.
Yeah, I think I always say this to people, and I've posted about this on social media when I get on my soapbox. Sometimes I'm like, you should always want to, and this is my opinion, but I just feel like human beings should always want to be, athletic for as long as you're alive. Be athletic for a 70-year-old. Be athletic for an 80-year-old. However long you're alive, you should feel like I'm the most athletic, whatever this age is. And and I think that helps people sometimes when I'm programming for them. They're like, yeah, so what? You're 45. Don't you want to be, the fittest 45-year-old, and not that
Right.
you have to break yourself to get there, but you can do a lot and keep yourself healthy and be as fit as you can be at whatever age you are and be an athlete. Because I think everyone should try to be athletic, like you said.
Yeah, I think it's just not putting limitations on yourself. I think a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm 45, I should be done. It's like I've seen, and maybe it's just our experience with who you're surrounded yourself with. But like, there's always someone who's, you look at someone, the masters in the CrossFit games, you don't necessarily have to be, but like, 60-year-olds, they're doing a lot of work, so it's like, it's possible.
Hmm.
Just want the capacity to be able to do those things
Yeah,
at
totally
your
agree.
age. So
Yeah.
definitely the goal of mine is, as I'm training for longevity even now, at 36, I'm training for when I'm 70,
Yeah.
and being able to do everything that I'm doing now, and if not even better. So
Yeah, I have started transitioning to that too myself. It's hard to break those old habits and to, all right, I guess I'll go easy. but it pays off in the long run if you're smart enough to do it and you do it the right way.
Yeah, I think that ego is definitely the hardest thing to break. Um, and then just like it's always you're always going back to like, oh, I used to lift this, or oh, I used to be able to do this. And it's like, well, maybe you're in a different spot. I think becoming a dad is kind of give me a different perspective.
Oh
Like
yeah.
like okay, I could max on my deadlift today, but I probably won't be able to pick up my daughter tomorrow. So
Yeah.
you know,
That's it's all perspective, risk reward. You got to always do that, the risk reward thing. Whenever if Shannon walks into the garage and I'm doing something super risky, I put my tail between my legs and I'm like, okay, okay, okay.
yeah,
I'll
yeah.
smart enough. She just gives me the stink eye. She's like, "What are you doing over here?"
That
Uh,
looks stupid.
yeah, don't do that.
Yeah.
All right, we got a couple more, and we got some time, so we'll take a crack at these ones because I like these ones. So one of them is, I think, a great question for people who might be listening who might want to coach. What's some advice you have for somebody who um, might want to get into coaching or remote coaching, programming, etc.?
Yeah, for the coaching stuff, I would definitely just get into the environment. So maybe do an internship or just kind of follow a trainer around and kind of watch what they do all day. Um, and then try to see multiple trainers, but try being in that environment and kind of watch how a training day goes, because I think it's a lot about schedule and flow of your day as well. When you have clients, when you don't, and how you schedule between them and the prep work that you do. But just trying to like acclimate yourself to like more of that environment if you haven't been in it before, or if you have, I think like taking a deeper dive into like from a CrossFit background, you're doing a class, and that's a different aspect. I thought it was a big jump going from class teaching 20, 30 people and then going to one person. I thought that was like a big change for me, just switching over to personal training. And I think it's the switch also vice versa, going from one person to teaching 20 people or 30 people. It's like, what's the difference between the coaching there? And then I also think just where we are in technology, it's like, okay, go from training someone in person to training someone online. Like, what's the difference there? I think, you're a better online trainer the more people you train in person. So I think from a coaching aspect, maybe different from a programming aspect. I think programming might be a little different, but definitely coaching. Just try to like be in that environment and try to pick a couple different environments. Look at a class setting, and then also look at one-on-one and just see the differences. And you know, I think seeing different coaches helps too. Not just like hey, this one person is the best at it. It's like try to see a variety of coaches. But I would have no problem if someone's like, hey, I want to learn about coaching. And they came up to me and was like, hey, can I watch one of your sessions? I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. And then, help them out after. So I've done that before.
That's some great advice. Yeah, I feel like generally speaking, the coaching community, at least the coaches I've met and worked with before, they're very open to like they're not super like possessive and like weird. Like a lot of coaches want people to see what they're doing just so they can get the word out about how they do things, and most are willing to allow you to sit in and watch how they coach and what they do. So if you ever did want to do that, I'm sure most that I've ever met would be more than happy to have whoever it is come and watch them and just pick their brain. Um, as far as programming goes, I'll speak to that a little bit. I think number one, at least in my opinion, is program for yourself for a while before you start programming for other people. Um, and program for yourself for a while for two reasons. Number one, you can test things out on yourself, practice things, and you can also go back and look at where you have tendencies and habits to do the same things over and over, where you might overprogram certain things or make certain mistakes, or maybe borrow certain ideas and concepts too often from certain things and overuse them. Because I know for me, that's a thing that I'm always doing is going back and looking at what do I program. Like I keep programming this same movement too often, or this rep scheme too often, or things like that. And I think if you program for yourself long enough, you start to learn where those pitfalls are and how to avoid making those mistakes. Um, and then at the same time, just like with coaching, the more you program for more people, the better you're going to get at it. And I think repetition is king. Consistency is king, and staying in it. Don't do it for 6 months and then take 3 months off because you're going to fall out of practice. You'll get rusty, I think, especially if you don't do it, if you haven't been doing it for a long time. And also pick brains of, there's so much free stuff out there on social media and things like that. There's a lot of kooky stuff, but I mean, there's a lot of really smart people putting out free content with great ideas and concepts and science behind it. So don't be afraid to reach out to those people about programming, or just look at their stuff, borrow ideas and concepts, test them out on yourself, and then incorporate them with clients and athletes that you have, because there's a lot of good free stuff out there. And buy people stuff too. There's some people who offer programs and coaching certificates and things like that that are awesome and are very reasonably priced. But if financially you can't, there's still plenty of free stuff out there to take a look at and to add to your repertoire.
Yeah, I think you have a program out there that
I've
like
got
you
a couple. I'm gonna release some more this summer when I get a little more time. But I think it's good too, to, as a coach or a programmer, to put stuff out there like that and let people have at it and give you feedback. I think feedback is great from others, because it tells you what's good, tells you what's bad, and makes you better. But yeah, I think the more you program, the better you get at it. I didn't program for anybody else until I had been programming for myself for like 6 years, and then and I was still scared of programming for somebody else, because like, what if I let them down? You have that fear, like you're gonna let them down or whatever. But taking that dive after you've practiced it on yourself is I think the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's always, ebbs and flows. You're always growing and improving. I wouldn't say my first program I ever gave out was a great program, uh, but like you learn what people need, and okay, let me turn this knob and turn this up a little bit. Let me turn this down, and kind of make tweaks as we go. But I really enjoyed what you said, is just starting with yourself. And I think if you're trying to coach someone, I think it's like start with someone you feel really comfortable with, and maybe give it out for free, like you were just saying, like, hey, program for yourself, or give your program away for free. I think that's a great way to build confidence. Is start out, hey, I'm going to do this just to build knowledge, but and then you can kind of build that up or extrapolate that out as far as you want. Hopefully, eventually, it's you're getting paid for your time and your knowledge that you build.
Yeah,
Um,
and I think coaching and programming on both sides of it, being open to feedback from anyone, regardless, and kind of just swallowing your pride is really, really important. And I ask for feedback constantly, and people are often too nice, but and athletes are too, shy to say things. But feedback is great. There's no better data out there than someone telling you, kind of where they're at or how things are going with the workouts you're writing them. And that anecdotal evidence is really, really valuable to make you better as a coach and as a programmer.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I love feedback. I love when someone says, "Hey, this isn't working for me," or "I need adjustment here." I think that makes you a better coach. I think it's kind of a red flag if you say that to your coach, if you give your coach feedback and they're not receptive to it. I think that's kind of maybe an ego coach who's like, my way or the highway. I think
Yeah,
that's a good sign. Maybe explore
yeah,
a different options, or
yeah. And I think there's a difference between, like, if someone says to you, like, "Hey, you're having me do back squats, 3 times a week, and I feel like crap and I'm injured," versus like, so that's like a programming mistake you're making. But if there's like a philosophical difference where you're just not seeing eye to eye, where someone's like, "I need more volume," or "I need more of this," you as a coach can disagree with that and say, "Well, no, that's not how I do things. Maybe we should go in a different direction." But if someone's giving you honest feedback about things just not working within the program, that's a different story. Like you said, I totally agree with that. But don't be afraid to also stand your ground a little bit, philosophically speaking. And don't bend to the will of an athlete who wants you to do things that you don't really believe in or don't want to do, because stick to what you philosophically believe as your principles as a coach. Because that's something I run into sometimes. It's hard, but I just am kind of stand my ground. I'll never do that way. If you want that, you can find it somewhere else, and no hard feelings. But I won't do that in my program. So this is kind of the way I do it. And then if you like it, you can stick around, and if not, we'll part ways. And again, no hard feelings, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just want to know the why, like the reason why. It's
Great.
not,
Yeah.
hey, felt like it. It's, hey, there's, you know, in my research and everything I've done, and all this information I have. This is the reason. So I think people just like the. I think people buy into a program that they understand. So if you can't explain it, I think that's a tough part as a coach. I love when people ask like, "Hey, why are you doing that?" or "Why are we doing this?" It's like, "Hey, these are the reasons. Here's the 6 reasons why this is what it's in the program, and why you need it." And they're like, "Oh, great!" Like they like it's they're happy to understand it a little bit more than just saying do it.
Mm-hmm. I like the why. The why you articulated better than I. The why is a good way to lay it out to somebody if there is sort of maybe a disagreement about the way things are going or why you're doing certain things. I think that's a good place to stop with the why.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the history of our coaching with some other things sprinkled in because we just can't help ourselves. Next episode, I think we might talk a little bit about our athletic history and who we are as athletes, or should I say, who we were as
We're
athletes.
that's,
We're athletes now, but not those athletes anymore.
no, we're a different type of athletes now.
Yeah, we're dadletes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So we'll get into that next episode. But this was a good one. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
All right,
excellent.
sir. I'll see you
We'll
next
see you on the
time.
next one.